Flawed Dogs by Berkeley Brothers. Read by Sterling Ray. Chapter 8. $180,000. Out! There's the word again, popping into her head for the second time that day, pressing on the inside of her skull as she's hurried through the front door towards the McLeod Heavenly Acres gate. Out! Out! Now this word too. Away. Also these. Go, now, quick, before anyone pulls you back into this cuckoo land of demented dog dips. She passed Violet carrying a tray of champagne glasses towards the backyard, baby Bruno strapped happily along her back. Heidi, where are you going? Fiji. She kept moving, then suddenly stopped at the gate, remembering the dachshund bouncing around in her bag. She pulled the dog out and set him on the lawn, at the edge of the woods, where he wobbled a bit as he looked up at her. That was fun, he said. What's next, partner? Shh! Go! You're liberated! Join a pack of wolves! He looked at her squarely. I have to tell you, banana taffy is my new favorite thing. Heidi began backing away, but the little dog followed. No! Go! Go! She yelled. They don't allow dogs in Fiji. They pee on the coconuts. This was a guess. Her tone turned angry. Go very far away. I'm doing the same. The dachshund kept following. Heidi put her face down to his and was about to scream louder when he licked the underside of her nose. She froze at this unexpected attack. A familiar shriek from behind her made her jump. She turned to see Mrs. Nutbush from the airport, still in the blue fur coat, run in and scoop up the dachshund, holding it above her head. My lost little Douglas Stuffed, where have you been, naughty boy? The dog looked as if it was about to be eaten, which, in a sense, it was. Heidi looked down the road to freedom. Then she looked back at Mrs. Nutbush, terrified dog in hand. Ugh, muttered Heidi under her breath as she pulled the little dog from the woman's grasp, giving him the sternest angry nun look she could muster. Naughty boy is right, always chasing big, blue... She looked at Mrs. Nutbush. Critters. Well, now, who are you, and why do you have the Douglas-stuffed Austrian red dachshund? Stammered the flustered woman, reaching for the shaking animal. Heidi backed away. I'm Heidi McLeod, and this is... She needed a name. Her imagination failed her. Sam. My dog, Sam. Sam? Sam? Repeated Mrs. Nutbush, suspicious. Yes, good old Sam. The Lion. An entirely perfect name. Sam the Lion. Heidi looked down at Sam and gave him a little eyebrow flash, which is more a warning than a wink, meaning, we're both in it up to our butts now, pal. Sam looked back at her in panic. Do not hand me back to the blue and hairy woman, he said. I will throw up taffy and fries on her. Mrs. Nutbush narrowed her eyes and leaned into Heidi. I think the police might like to know why a discarded, snot-nosed orphaned McLeod has a one-of-a-kind, $180,000 Douglas dachshund, she sneered. Heidi's eyes popped. $180,000? She looked down at Sam. You poop rubies? Why would you have such a dog? Demanded Mrs. Nutbush. Good question. Heidi opened her mouth. Nothing. It was a gift from her uncle, said a voice from behind. It was Miss Violet, holding a punch bowl containing a humming baby Bruno. Goodness, no reason to involve the police with an honest misunderstanding, Mrs. Nutbush, she said as she laid a gentle hand atop Heidi's strewn hair and stared carefully into the girl's surprised face. You're late, Miss McLeod. The competition is about to start. Take Sam the Lion there, and hurry on to register. Heidi, too confused to argue, moved back through the gate, past the huge dog-shaped bushes, and towards the house. She looked back at Miss Violet, who gave her an eyebrow flash. Nobody before had given her an eyebrow flash. A smiling Violet turned to a shocked Mrs. Nutbush. Violet dabbed her eyes with the corner of her apron. Heidi and Sam's first show. A big moment for all of us. Mrs. Nutbush snorted a suspicious snort, pushed past Violet, and stomped after the girl holding her $180,000 Douglas dachshund. Heidi walked as if in a trance, back towards the dreadful place that she had just run from. Sinister cosmic forces beyond her understanding had seized her life, she figured, All she could do was put one foot in front of the other and not fall over. Carrying Sam and his Douglas tuft whatever thing, she stumbled towards the jostling crowd and their trash can lid hats and their hydraulic bosoms and their powdered, pooferized dogs and the gathering realization that this was going to be the end of her life. She found herself at the end of a long line of fancy people with fancy dogs at the center of the McCloud Heavenly Acres back lawn. She stood frozen in dazed terrors, gripping Sam close to her chest, upside down. She was in a dog show. The horror. The competition was about done. Heidi became dimly aware of people clapping and cheering. She looked up to see a beaming Mrs. Beaglehole getting back in line after showing the dazzling, show-stopping Cassius. The people in the surrounding lawn chairs clapped loudly while Mrs. Beaglehole smiled triumphantly and made a little bow to the crowd. The big poodle had won the Piddleton Best in Show for the past 3 years. He would grease this one, and Mrs. Beaglehole knew it. The World Championship Westminster Show in New York City lay in the future. Cassius would win Best in Show, the most beautiful dog on the planet. They both knew this. "Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen," announced a lady with a microphone and a clipboard at the center of the lawn. "A last-minute entry has been added. It's... Oh, what a lovely surprise. Heidi McCloud, Hamish McCloud's niece, and her Austrian red dachshund, Ham the lion." "Sam," corrected Heidi in the tiniest whisper. The crowd went dead silent. A shocked Mrs. Beaglehole and Cassius spun their heads to stare at her at the end of the line. Then a frantic low murmuring raced through the crowd. The little orphan McCloud girl? A McCloud hasn't shown up at their own dog show for 10 years. She looks like her mother. They say at school she set the nuns' toilets to flush in reverse. Heidi heard all of this, which made her mortification complete. She wondered if the others could hear the pounding of her heart. "Miss McCloud and Sam the lion," said the woman at the center, gesturing towards Heidi. "The judges await." Heidi stared. The judges awaited what? Here was the dog in her hands. What else did they need? The clipboard woman gestured to her to do something. What? What did people do at dog shows? Hundreds of eyes were on her as her panic slipped into action, and she instantly went with her best guess. She put Sam on the ground. Then she began to dance. She had been good at dancing. Her freestyle was legendary among the students at St. Egregious. So she played Elvis's Hound Dog in her head, closed her eyes, and let it all fly. Sam stared up at Heidi's windmilling arms and legs and wondered if this simply was what all human beings suddenly did around noon every day. So he began to dance as well, hopping, twirling, bouncing. Heidi smiled. He looked like he was in a hot skillet. Then Sam noticed Mrs. Nunbush. She was in the crowd, moving closer, dead set, he figured, on eating him. So Sam did what worked before, and shot up Heidi's legs to find high ground. In this case, to the top of her head. The tittering began. Tittering is polite laughter that never stays polite. Eventually, all 300 dog lovers were spewing champagne punch through their noses in open hysterics. Heidi only danced harder, while Sam hung on. He found himself nose to nose with the judge. Her eyes went to the top of his head. The judge stopped laughing. "The Douglas tuft," she said in an odd whisper normally saved for matters of religion or premium gossip. Her mouth dropped. Then slowly, one by one, Piddleton's fanciest citizens began murmuring the same thing. "The Douglets, the Douglets." And one by one they stood in solemn reverence, as if the Pope himself had suddenly alighted upon Heidi McCloud's head. The most supernaturally beautiful dog that any had ever seen was before them. Sam's perfect proportions, crowned with his tuft born of almost inconceivably careful breeding, was almost none that many could take. Phlegmy Crew in the back fainted and needed slapping. For a moment, Heidi thought that her dancing had won the crowd over, but then realized that all eyes were on Sam. She looked up at her uncle's window. The curtains were parted enough for her to see that his face peered down. Suddenly, it was gone. The judge approached and handed Heidi a large silver trophy cup while people clapped. Heidi had never won anything in her life, other than timeouts in the closet from the nuns. She looked around at the grinning, cheering strangers, who suddenly didn't seem so strange anymore. The judge tied a blue ribbon around Sam's neck and smiled at the dog. Sam grinned back. "I love banana taffy," he said.